that are trying to defend against it had no idea that they were using this alternative system of law to hammer them to death in court. But this is what one journal says, and I quote it: "At the same time, sustainable development's broad sweep strains our intellectual grasp of its meaning and outruns the capacity of our current legal and political systems to channel society's activity toward its achievement. There is no doubt that sustainable development needs new paradigms to transform it from visionary rhetoric to a viable political goal," close quote. That's reflexive law. It's reforming U.S. law today as we speak. And yet every lawyer, John, I've asked, every time I meet somebody and say, "I'm a lawyer," bingo. First thing I ask them, I pull out my chapter 12, I pull out my book, I said, "Have you ever heard of reflexive law?" "No." "What is it?" And I start telling them about it. "I never heard of that." And I say, "Well, it's in all the legal journals. I mean, here's a list of 15 legal journals that got articles that have reflexive law in the title, and you've never heard of it. How can you work in a court that uses reflexive law and you don't know what it is?" You see? But the legal profession has no idea that this is even on the radar. They're using it against us. So law has been reformed right under our nose. Energy is another an area of major transformation. Everybody today has heard of smart grid by now. The new intelligent meters that are going on the sides of homes and businesses to read from the devices inside those homes and businesses the energy consumption and where it's being consumed. And furthermore, it allows for the control of those devices from external sources. So if a utility wants to achieve a balanced load this week, and maybe it's a really hot week or something in Texas, and the utility decides, well, if people didn't use their washing machine from noon to 6, but rather from midnight to 4, that would be that would help us develop a balanced load, you see.
Oh, yeah.
They will be able, through smart grid, to control your washing machine to shut it off for those hours. And you have to get up at midnight and turn your washing machine back on when it's allowed to be on. Thermostats, ovens, washing machines, dryers, anything that consumes major electricity is going to be in control by the smart grid system. And furthermore, it's not just a local smart grid. This is what shocked me, John, really got me worked up and tied it to technocracy. The global smart grid is being developed today at the same pace as our national smart grid is. And you say, why would they do that? These people intend to have a global smart grid that can be controlled from a central point on planet Earth to control every watt of power that's consumed everywhere in the world. And here's a website called GENI, the Global Energy Network Institute. It's a real thing. Terawatts.com. People can go there and look at it. It just blow your mind. Here are some of the people that have endorsed the global smart grid. Well, Walter Cronkite's not around anymore, but when he was alive, he did. Look whose picture's right in the middle of this. Al Gore. Al Gore? Okay. Well, how about the Dalai Lama? You say, well, that's a strange thing. How about Vicente Fox? He was the guy that was the president of Mexico. He's also a member of the Trilateral Commission. You got people like, oh my gosh, Senator Alan Cranston. He was a trip. You know, you get the idea. The global energy grid is being built out today like breakneck speed. The thing that got me going on this, little side note, I learned that the smart grid in America was kickstarted with stimulus money in 2009. That was back when Hank Paulson remember he was pounding his fist on the Senate table demanding a blank check from Congress or we're all going to die. And he got a blank check, and the government had all these billions of dollars to spend. Well, Obama turned around just after that. Obama turns around when he gets a hold of some of this big pot of money, and he very quietly, through the Department of Energy, issues funds to utilities across the country to kickstart smart grid in America. No congressional mandate whatsoever. There was no visibility, no accountability. The money was just given out. Go do it. This is what we want you to do. This was technocracy. The reason I know that is that all the other countries in the industrialized world did the same thing at the same time. 2009, stimulus money that all those other countries were getting a hold of to, try and re-stimulate the economy again, to get it back going again. That's what they said.
Yeah.
They all took stimulus money and said, go do smart grid. At the same time, there was no public demand for this before 2009. None. So they did this on a global basis. Mexico, Canada, Europe, all the countries across Europe, Great Britain, China, Japan, Korea, they all had stimulus programs implementing smart grid at the same time, being rolled into the global smart grid by organizations like terawatts.com. That put me over the edge on this, John.
Oh, yes, just a little bit. It's interesting going to the terawatts page. Let's see. This is author Jeremy, looks like Rifkin, The Empathic Civilization. In the 21st century, hundreds of millions and eventually billions of human beings will transform their buildings into power plants to harvest renewable energies on site, store those energies in the form of hydrogen, and share electricity peer-to-peer across local, regional, national, and continental intergrids that act much like the internet. The open source sharing of energy, like open source sharing of information, will give rise to collaborative energy spaces, not unlike the collaborative social spaces that currently exist on the internet. And then you go to what is smart grid. Smart grid is a modernized electrical grid that uses analog or digital information and communications technology to gather and act on information, such as information about the behaviors of suppliers and consumers, in an automated fashion to improve the efficiency, reliability, economics, and sustainability of the grid. It sounds all lovely until you realize, oh, wait a minute. That means you need to know everything that we're doing at all times when we turn on the bathroom light or not, whether or not we have a lighted toilet seat cover, for example, stuff like that. This is, I don't know. What's the payoff in all of this? A few people in control of the thing that reap ever more trillions of dollars, or whatever those things may be worth in the next few years? I mean, what's the end game here, Patrick?
As we'll find, the end game is, in the end of it, control. It's control over everything. It's not just about money. There'll be plenty of that for them, plenty of wealth, if you will, nice things around to enjoy. But it's really about control of the whole mechanism. And remember, from day one, even St. Simon believed that scientists and engineers were more superior than all other men. And, they will control this, not by a dictator. People look at somebody like Obama and say, well, he wants to be dictator. No, it's not going to be a dictatorship like that. A scientific dictatorship is one where the system controls you. Not necessarily, of course, you still don't want to cross the person at the top, but you'll never see that person. He'll never see you.
You'll never know his name.
He'll never know your name, and vice versa. The system will control you. And you won't be able to move left or right if the system algorithm says, you can't buy that plane ticket to New York City because you've been consuming too much gasoline driving your car for an extra 2,000 miles in the last month. Well, how do they know that? Because they're tracking it. And a computer program sees that you've been a greedy, compulsive consumer and that you've gone over your allotment.
You use the elevator too much. Yeah, seriously, you use the electric elevator too much. That's going to cost you.
Yeah, that's right. You'll be punished, according to Al Gore. Yeah. You know, and you better, and it goes down to your thoughts, because if you are climate change denier, you're automatically not going to get a plane ticket to New York City.
Do you remember that picture with James Caan called Rollerball, when it was like, and now our corporate anthem before the rollerball games? And he wants to find out some information, so he goes to the big liquid computer called Zero, and it wouldn't say anything to him but negative, 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 negative. And then the guy in there, the mad scientist professor, the guy who runs his, go, I hate you, Zero, and all this other stuff. But it's sort of like that seems like where we're headed. I mean, I've seen these stories before that if you're charged with a crime, you don't go before a jury of your peers, you go before the computer.
That's
and
right.
The computer analyzes all this stuff and says, no, you're just vaporized. That's the end of that. Next.
Yeah, that's about it. You will conform. You will conform. You will conform, or you won't be able to live. I mean, you're gonna you want to get along, you got to go along. So do what we say. Just shut up and take your medicine, and that's the end of it. This global smart grid, though, thinking back to the requirements of technocracy.
Yes.
Make possible a balanced load.
Yes.
Control all consumption and production.
Make possible a balanced load. That means you only get so many watts.
That's right. That's right. Now, historically, utilities were a public utility. And what that meant was, if new markets came in order to have for the right to have a monopoly, that you had to promise to serve all the outliers as well. And if you didn't have infrastructure to service the outliers, as people in the outskirts of town, if you will, or out in the country, you had to build that infrastructure at your own expense to take on those lower paying markets, if you will. Some of them were actually lost leaders. You couldn't make any money on it. But I lived on a farm growing up. We had power poles coming out to our property. And the reason we did is because the government forced them to build them because they had a monopoly on power. If you want to sell power to people in the cities, you have to sell power also to the people in the country. That's just, you want the monopoly? That's the terms. Right. And everybody said yes. And so we expect the utilities to ramp up their energy production if demand goes up out in the cities. If the city grows, whatever, the utility are supposed to, build more facilities and put money into these other things so that we all have enough power. But they stopped doing that when they figured, well, why should we spend our own money on this? We could balance the load by building more facilities easily. But they don't want to do that now. The whole philosophy has changed. And now when they say balance load, what that means, John, is that they're going to balance the load on your back.
Yep.
They're not going to do anything to balance the load whatsoever. They're forcing you to take the load on you. So you have to change. And quit using all that electricity, by the way. You're using your showers are too long. The EPA just announced a new regulation coming. Not regulation, a new technology coming that will be turned into regulation. That they're building a device for hotels. This is the EPA doing this. Oh. They're developing a technology for hotels to implement that will tell them and you as a hotel, you stay in a hotel, how long of a shower you take. Oh, think about that.
Yeah.
Sir, when you check out, sir, you're, we have to add we have to add an extra $20 surcharge to your bill. We told you it's only be $120 a night, but it's going to cost you $140. Because your shower was 12 minutes long. And you're only, we told you, you only could take an 8-minute shower. So we have to charge you this. Well, how did you know that? Well, we timed your shower. Well, how did you do that? Well, we have a sensor in the wall when you turn the shower on.
Yeah, look, this stuff is undeniable. I was just speaking with a friend yesterday about going to have an eye examination. And the questions that on this little form were just outrageous. I mean, it was like what you like to read, what you like to eat, what you were, what you want to be, that thing. It was, and this person was going, I'm not going to answer any of this. Here. I just want to see the optometrist, like now. Oh, well, you're sort of being unmuted.